Hey there, Kirk and Marilyn.
Hi, Kirkland, Maryland.
So are we. Thanks.
Thank you.
So Antonio, you're going back to Massachusetts.
Yes, I'm really looking forward to going back there. It's such a beautiful place, and running Kirkland, Maryland runs such a wonderful festival.
I know. I've been back there many times performing in the little towns, and it's just, they're such great hosts and artists as well. But I particularly like the lobster.
Yes, the food is good back there.
Yeah, the food is great. So what are you going to play?
I'm playing a very unusual program which has to do with Louis Moreau Gottschalk, America's first important pianist composer that few people do not know. And he lived in Cuba for about 6 years. And
Wow.
he influenced the Cuban composers of his time period and the two generations to follow, up to and through Ernesto Lecuona. And what people do not realize is that Louis Moreau Gottschalk is actually the first chapter of American music. And it wasn't until the 1940s or 1950s that musicologists began to realize that the first chapter of American music was Louis Moreau Gottschalk. He's the precursor of ragtime and early jazz.
I didn't realize he was before ragtime. Wow.
50 years before.
Wow.
You can trace the influence, you can trace how Jelly Roll Morton, Scott Joplin,
Wow.
Artie
Interesting.
Matthews, all these guys were deeply influenced by Louis Moreau Gottschalk.
I didn't realize that. I always thought Joplin was the first, but it was Gottschalk. Amazing.
I'm going to be playing some samples right next to each other so people can see the influence. The main piece that I'm playing is called Night in the Tropics, that Gottschalk wrote when he was living in the Caribbean. He actually wrote it in the island of Martinique, but he had just come back from Cuba, and he lived in Cuba on and off for about 6 years. And I transcribed the second movement. It's a symphony. It's the first American symphony, Night in the Tropics, so it's a historic work. And I transcribed the second movement that had never been transcribed for one piano, and I gave the world premiere on one piano in 2013. So I'll be giving the East Coast premiere when I play it back there.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
It's a first American symphony, so it's an important work. It's a historic work.
Historic work. You know, I had heard when I was a child, and then eventually tried to play it, the banjo and his different little pieces, but I'd never heard
Yes.
of this piece. This is wonderful.
When people think of Louis Moreau Gottschalk, one usually thinks of the
The
banjo,
banjo.
Bambula, the dying poet,
Wow.
but he was much more than that. He was America's first important pianist composer.
Wow, that's amazing. And the other thing, you mentioned how Gottschalk was influenced by the Cuban composers were influenced by Gottschalk, but
And
Do you-
Cuban music influenced him. So
that's what I was wondering.
yes, he wrote over 30 compositions in Cuba, both for piano and orchestral.
That's
And some
amazing.
of his most inspired compositions were written in Cuba, like there's a piece called El Cocoye, which I'll be playing again, which is a beautiful piece. And I'll also be playing some pieces that by Ernesto Lecuona and his sister Ernestina, that very few people are not aware of.
Oh,
And Gottschalk taught Ignacio Cervantes, who was a marvelous Cuban composer, and Ignacio Cervantes taught Hubert de Blanc, who founded the Conservatorio of Havana, and Hubert de Blanc taught Ernesto Lecuona. Now, Louis Moreau Gottschalk taught Ignacio Cervantes, so all of these composers have a connection to Gottschalk in one way or another.
that's fascinating. And the interesting thing too that I forgot to mention, that Antonio Iturrias is going to tour the East Coast with Cranberry Coast Concerts, and it's their 12th season. And Kirk Whipple and Marilyn Morales are your hosts and are duo pianists in their own right. And Marilyn, like yourself, was born in Cuba.
Yes,
So that's an interesting tie-in.
yes. No, each time I see Kirk and Marilyn, I really enjoy visiting with them and playing music with them because they are both such wonderful musicians.
Mm-hmm.
And as you
Yes.
say, Marilyn was also born in Cuba, so we have that in common also.
Yes. So when you're playing the Gachak, do you feel the Cuban rhythms that you heard as a
Absolutely.
child?
Yes, the last movement is called Fiesta Criolla. The symphony is called Night in the Tropics, Symphony Romantique. It's a symphony of two movements. In reality, it's not a symphony. It's two tone poems combined. The first movement is called Night in the Tropics, and the second movement is called Fiesta Criolla, Creole Festival. And in that second movement, Gachak uses all of the Cuban rhythms that you can think of, and some. And so what adds vitality to Gachak's music of that time period is the rhythmic excitement that he gets using these Cuban rhythms and Afro-Caribbean rhythms.
Wow. I wish I could fly out there and hear you. That sounds fantastic. Wonderful.
Thank you very much, Katie, and I really look forward to going out there and playing again. I was out there 2 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
and so I look forward to, I have 2 concerts to play there, and we're also gonna give a master class.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. Now, when I was out there, I can't remember the year, there was a whole Cuban community that came down from Boston. Have you met or mingled with any?
Some of them, the year that I played, it was early in the season, and some of them were there, but I think that what you're talking about came a little bit, they came a couple of weeks later.
Later, yes, and they all came to this one particular concert. Now I can't remember which one it was, but it was really, it was a party. I mean, that they just flooded the stage, and it was an instant, beautiful experience. So
In contrast to my first time playing there 2 years ago, 2 years ago I played there at the beginning of the season. This time I'm going to be playing towards the end of the season.
Oh,
I think I'm the penultimate concert.
ah,
If I'm right, if my figures are right, I think I'm next to the last one.
that's the last one.
Yeah.
So just on a lighter note, on a light note, what about this tour in Massachusetts is fun for you besides playing? What?
It's a beautiful part of the world.
Yes.
I'm going to get a chance to see my good friends Kirk and Marilyn,
Mhm.
and the other people that I met who have become friends, and also remember some very nice memories of, there were a couple of ladies that are no longer with us that have passed on. One of them was named Audrey,
Mm-hmm.
and
She made this lace.
wow, it's beautiful.
Mhm.
And she's a beautiful memory for me, so it's gonna be nostalgic in a way
Yes.
going back there.
Yes. Oh, give them my love. I miss everyone a lot. And let's see, is there anything else that you wanted to say today?
That basically covers it. I was just gonna say that if some people want to watch me play, hear me play, you can go to YouTube. I have many links, and the one that I recommend that they go see is called Artist's Life Part 2.
Okay.
It's the Leopold Godowski's version of the Artist's Life of Strauss, and I have a nice version, but make sure to see Part 2 because I have various versions of the Artist's Life, and Part 2 was the one that was filmed the nicest.
Wonderful.
And you can also hear me play El Cocoyer and other stuff. So-
Other stuff, so we'll get to hear it in every part of the world. The other thing I wanted to mention before we say Adios is the, you just came from Scotland.
I was just in Edinburgh.
Yes,
And I played a series of 3 concerts.
wonderful.
I was there less than a month ago, and I really enjoyed myself. And a lot of the repertoire that I'll be playing at the Cranberry Coast Festival, I played in Scotland.
How exciting, that's wonderful. Oh, I just so appreciate you coming here today.
Oh,
In,
you're very kind. The feeling is mutual. Thank you.
Thank you. In this Dream Portal studio in Sebastopol, California. And I just want to say, Kirk and Marilyn, I just wish you all the luck in this, your 12th season of Cranberry Coast Concerts.
And
You're
I'm looking-
welcome.
I'm looking forward to seeing you both and to playing at your festival.
Back at you, Kirk and Marilyn.